Welcome to today's episode of the Declutter Hub podcast, your channel for super easy, no-nonsense advice on how to declutter and organise your home. Please welcome your hosts, professional organisers Ingrid Jansen and Lesley Spellman.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 139 of the Declutter Hub podcast. I'm Lesley. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to welcome back Sandra Czachur, who's one of my very good friends. In episode 131, Sandra shared with us her journey into downsizing, upsizing, and right-sizing, and everything in between. So do have a listen to that podcast if you've not listened in already, because it's really insightful and fab. So thank you for sharing that, Sandra. Sandra shared with us at the end of that podcast that in her new sort of dream life in Llandudno in North Wales, one of the things that she has chosen to do is to volunteer at a charity shop. So Sandra volunteers at the Cats Protection charity shop in Llandudno, and we're going to find out all about what that looks like and what her day-to-day life looks like. So welcome back to the show, Sandra.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about Cats Protection.
I know not one, but two podcasts. How fabulous is that? We get to do it twice. Me. So it's no surprise to me that when you chose a charity shop to volunteer at, that it was something to do with animal welfare, because we have a fantastic story to tell, don't we, Sandra, about, people as a declutterer, lots of people talk to me all the time and say, what's the most interesting thing that you've ever decluttered? And this is a story that I always tell, and it actually involves Sandra, doesn't it? Yeah. So we sat there one morning, Sandra, having coffee, didn't we? And what did you share with me that your dream animal was?
Well, if I remember rightly, I was talking about a vision board I'd done. And the first thing on my vision board was a Newfoundland dog.
So for anybody who's not familiar with a Newfoundland, it is a huge dog. It's fair to say, isn't it? It's yes. a very large dog. And so Sandra shared, this is on my vision board and I would love to have a Newfoundland dog. And we just kind of put it all behind. Oh, yeah, that's fine, whatever. Never really thought anything more of it until that afternoon when I went to work, and I worked for a client that I've worked with for quite a while. And she said, do you know what, Lesley? It's all got a little bit worse, because as well as dealing with my clutter, I just couldn't help myself but take in this dog that I found. So she had a new rescue dog. And it was a Newfoundland cross, wasn't it, Sandra? And so the house that she lived in was quite small, and she loved the dog. The dog was absolutely perfect, but it wasn't suitable for the property that she was living in. And so I said, do you know what? I might have the perfect person to declutter your dog to. And so a few phone calls later, I had decluttered the lovely Barclay, and Sandra was then the new proud owner of him.
Oh, I know. I just love how it works. It's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, you really do believe in things happening for a reason, don't you, Sandra? Throughout your journey with Ayurveda, you believe that things are meant to happen, don't you? And that was definitely meant to happen. I'm with you. Tell us a little bit more about Barclay.
Well, like you say, I mean, it was interesting that you happened to come across a Newfoundland cross, but we were looking for another dog. We already had one dog, Sammy, but I was thinking it would be nice to have another dog. But that first time, I know we went to meet him and pick him up, and we were only having him for the weekend. But he never went back, and that was over 11, 12 years ago now. So he fitted in well. I mean, he was a bit, he's had a bit of a hard life up to then with the previous owner where he'd been rescued from. But he's doing well, and he loves living here by the sea. So that was definitely a good job, Lesley.
It was the most interesting thing I've ever decluttered. I decluttered it from a house that she really did not want to let him go because he was such a gorgeous dog, but she knew it was the right thing for him. So all the pieces fitted together, and that's my most exciting decluttering feat of all time. But anyway, so And it fits in nicely, Sandra, because the charity shop that you work in is the Cats Protection. So it's no surprise then that you have a love of animals. So what animals have you got in your house now?
So, well, we have got 2 dogs, but one dog is actually in sale because during this, the lockdown and everything, she went for a visit and has never been able to come back because obviously they can't travel to Wales. And actually, she's a golden retriever. She's quite happy there, and she's got everybody taking her. She's got 5 men there, all taking her for walks and things in the house where they live. So we've just got 1 dog here now, but we do have 4 cats.
Okay, and what are your cats called?
So we've got Frankie and Teddy, who are 13, and they came with us. So we only came to this house with 2. But since working at Cats Protection, we have acquired 2 more, Bryn and Betty, and they're just over, must be over 1 now, 14 months or something.
So cute. You love your cats, Sandra.
I love my cats.
You love your cats and your dogs. And so you are at Cats Protection. Tell us a little bit about that charity.
So, well, Cats Protection is it's the largest feline welfare charity for starters. They must help around 200,000 cats and kittens every year, and that's down to all the shops, the volunteers, all the centres around the country. I think what I love about their vision is that their vision is for a world where every cat is treated with kindness and an understanding of its needs. And for me personally, it's a vision of mine too, for all animals, not just cats. So Cats Protection have that sort of ethos about helping cats and giving them a voice, really, because obviously they can't talk for themselves, can they? But they also rehome, they neuter, they give lots of advice on their website. So if you need any advice about cats, you can go to their website, cats.org.uk. But yeah, I think they're just helping cats, and that's what I like about it.
And I'm sure, obviously this podcast goes out worldwide, but I'm sure there are equivalent cat charities all over the world. Of course there are. So what does your day-to-day, what's your role then at the charity shop?
So I've probably got 2 roles. So I'm a volunteer in the shop, and mainly I went to volunteer. When we moved here, I moved here away from everybody I knew, so I didn't know anybody, and it seemed like a really good idea to volunteer somewhere. And so when I saw, maybe it was a Facebook post, I saw they were asking for volunteers, I jumped at the chance to work in the shop. And I've chosen to work on the shop floor. So any volunteers can go along and they can be behind the scenes if they like. There's lots of different roles they can do in the shop. But I like being on the shop floor. I like meeting people, and I get to talk to all the customers, and they love to show me pictures of their cats and things. So that was my choice, to be on the shop floor. In our shop, we have 2 managers who are great and make my job really easy. The thing I like about Cats Protection is across all their shops, they're consistent in their layouts and their styling. So in our shops, we have everything is sort of colour coded, or mostly ladies' clothes, and we do have some men's clothes, and they're all colour coded, and they all look fabulous. In fact, people walk in the shop and don't realise at first that we're actually a charity shop. They come walking in and then they realise. Which is nice, and it's good to have those standards, to make the shop look so nice and inviting. It's
so interesting that you talk there, Sandra, about colour coding, because if we go back to our last episode that we were talking about, you were telling us, because we shared that you had 5 children, all within 7 years of each other. So you had 5 children within 7 years. And one of the things that got you through those early years was colour coding, wasn't it? So you colour coded absolutely everything to do with the children, from the lunch boxes to the cups that they drank out of, to the toothbrushes, everything like that. And that's so interesting that it's come back again, hasn't it? The colour coding has come back in your later life.
I've never looked at it like that, but yes, obviously some theme going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
But yes, it does it makes the shop look lovely, when you come in, because things are, and then I can match things together, in the same colour theme, yeah.
And there are different types of charity shops. Some charity shops are more kind of top end than others, aren't they? And really do. Some are more kind of a bit of a mishmash of lots of kinds of things, but more regularly now, charity shops are in some ways exactly the same as normal shops. And as we start to focus on sustainability and repurposing and reusing, people are very focused on not buying something brand new when we can buy something secondhand. And so I think the charity shops have definitely upped their game over the last few years in terms of the layout and the consistency that they have, haven't they? So no, it's interesting that yours is a nice, I mean, they're all nice and they've all got their purpose, but if it's a nice environment to shop in.
Oh, it is, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head there with sustainability, because, I mean, I look back in that last podcast, you talked about downsizing, and when I had all those clothes that I got rid of, that was a very different me when I would go out all the time and buy clothes. And I think we realise now that we don't need to do that. I mean, the stuff that we get donated is in pristine condition. I just can't believe, but it's just that, like we all are, sometimes we just either something doesn't fit anymore or we don't like wearing it. But it doesn't mean it's not, good to wear. I've unfortunately bought a few things from the charity shop because when I'm in there and I see something. But the other thing we do is we do steam all the clothes upstairs. So they're always in immaculate condition anyway when people come in. I think that's why that makes it more appealing, doesn't it, for somebody to go shopping.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice, isn't it, to shop in a nice environment like that. And I know, as well as your sort of front of house role then, Sandra, if we want to call it that, you also do the social media, which is no surprise with your social media connections that we were talking about in the last podcast. Because for anybody who's not listened to that podcast, Sandra's got, how many followers now? Is it like 13 or 14,000 followers that you've got on Instagram?
Oh, no, not quite. No, 12K, 12 something K, yeah.
Okay, 12,000 followers on Instagram who follow Sandra's journey into refurbishment and design on her house. And so if you want to take a look at that, I'll pop her Instagram handle on the show notes, because she's got a beautiful, beautiful house and she documents everything through Instagram. So go along and enjoy that. So because of your sort of foray into Instagram, they've asked you to do the social media as well for the Cats Protection. Presumably you enjoy that as well.
Oh, absolutely, yes. So, yeah, I do their Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, so hopefully you can pop the links below so people can see.
Definitely.
Social media is a great tool for us because I can go around the shop and I can take pictures of things that we've got for sale. And lots of times we've had people come in because they've seen it on the Instagram post or whatever. And we also share lots of lovely stories about cats that have been rehomed or...
It's your dream, Sandra, isn't it? To take pictures of cats all day.
Cats and
cats and houses. Cats and
houses and clothes. I've got it all.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get, what I really wanted to talk to you about was the getting down to the nitty gritty of sort of almost behind the scenes at the charity shop, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there, I think. Charity shop in the UK, thrift shops in the US, op shops in Australia and New Zealand. And so there's a lot of misconceptions about the types of things that a charity shop will accept, won't accept. And so I tend to err on the side of, be kind to the people that are going through stuff and don't put complete rubbish in there. But charity shops in general like to make their own choices about what they do and don't want. And they will take more than you imagine that they will take in general. I think that's probably a rule of thumb. And I think people always think, oh, actually, no, they're never going to be able to sell that, so I'm not going to send it. And then sometimes it goes into landfill, which is really quite tragic. And so, use the charity shops because there are lots of outlets. So it may not actually sell in the shop, but there are other outlets available to the charity shop owners and management that you might not have thought about. And so I really want to delve a little bit deeper into that. So what kinds of things does your shop, you can only talk about your own charity, of course you can, and every charity shop is different. One of the things that we do encourage is for you to strike up a communication with your local charity shop to find out what they like and don't like about what you donate, so that you've got a true picture of that. But I'd like to know about your charity shop in particular and what kinds of things you accept and what you wouldn't accept.
So, firstly, we're so grateful for all the donations because we wouldn't be where we are now without them. But we accept everything. We welcome everything because whatever it is, we can find a home for it. But in our shop, we are mostly ladies fashion, really. Ladies clothes, handbags, shoes, accessories. We have some menswear. We have books, DVDs, CDs, and we even have vinyls. We get some amazing donations. Just, recently we had a great big selection of records from somebody, and things like that we can sell, not so much in the shop, but we can sell them online. So we're happy to accept anything, because even if it's clothes that you think, oh, nobody would wear, we can send those off to the rag trade and we get money for those. And it's all about bringing money to Cats Protection for the cats, to help all those cats out there. So whatever it is, it's worth bringing. We can't take furniture. We haven't got a big shop floor to be able to put furniture in, maybe small items of furniture, but we don't have vans and a big space to store it, so furniture isn't really an option.
Yeah, I think there are plenty of charities out there that have those bigger spaces, don't they? And most people know in their local area who takes furniture and who doesn't, and those do tend to be the ones that will come to your house as well and pick stuff up. So I'm interested that you talked about the rag trade and that you can sell things on, so they won't necessarily sell in the shop, but you can still get money for them as a charity. So how does that work? So does somebody sort through the stuff and take out the things how does it work behind the scenes?
Yes, so like I was saying, I've chosen to be on the shop floor, but other volunteers will prefer to be behind the scenes. And so in our case, we have an upstairs. So upstairs, all the donations are taken. We have lots of big pens where different items go, and everything's sorted into colour, size, style. We have a big pen that we can put all the rag trade in, and then I'm not sure, it might be something like once a month somebody will come and collect all that stuff. I'm not sure about the timing of that. So we have volunteers upstairs who will go through everything and make sure it's suitable. If it's not suitable, it goes into the relevant pens to be either sent to another shop or sent to the rag trade. We try and use as much as we possibly can, because it's all about, getting money for the cats.
And so you talked also, Sandra, about selling things online, which is quite interesting as well. So obviously you've got the shop as an outlet. So you talked about selling things online. So what do you mean by that?
So we do have an eBay account that can be used for selling some. So if we get something donated, and obviously, if you look up and see that it's of value, then we want to get the most for it. Somebody has donated that to us, and we're so grateful, and we want to get the most that we can for it, because we're grateful that they've donated it, but we also want to make as much money for the charity, and that way you can target it to a more interested party, and you're opening up the area to sell it. And also, even on the Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, I can put items on that we know are valuable, and that way people come into the shop because they've seen it on social media.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I sort of had a chat years ago with a charity shop in Sale that I used, and they kind of went one step further. So they had an eBay account, but they also had specialist sellers. So things like vintage cameras, old jewelry, and things like that. They had specific people who would take. So they had additional people on top of selling it themselves that they would then sort of outsource or pass it on to get money for as well. So there's definitely the charity shops. It doesn't just stop in the charity shops. I think so many people just think, well, I wouldn't see that kind of thing in the shop window of a charity shop. And it's really important to know that there are these other outlets. And my advice to you then, as I've said before, is to go in to chat to someone like Sandra, who's sitting at Cats Protection at the till, and say, I've got these kind of things. I'm just wondering whether or not you would sell that or not. And they can be very honest as to whether that would be a welcome donation or not, because undoubtedly there will be some things that are more awkward to sell than others. And perhaps, there's an easier way for you to to pass that on to somebody else, which is not the charity shop. And so I think it's about having that open and honest dialogue, isn't it, with the charity shop owner to see whether that's a really useful donation. I know that you will accept everything, but perhaps sometimes there might be another way of doing things that makes things a little bit easier or cuts out the middleman or something like that. There must be things, Sandra, that are more difficult. So I'm thinking about things like jigsaws. So let's have a jigsaw. It's got 100 pieces, 1,000 however many pieces a jigsaw has got.
Well,
is that something that you would welcome in your charity shop, not 100% knowing whether or not it's intact?
Oh, well, definitely we sell lots of jigsaws, and we always have somebody upstairs will have to sit down and count and make sure, because we would never sell a jigsaw with a piece missing, because that's very frustrating. So I would advise, if you could, to just check that all the pieces are there. There's no point donating really a jigsaw that isn't complete. So it would be good to check that, and even sellotape the box, because accidents happen, and we have had boxes open and the pieces are all on the floor. And the same with DVDs and CDs. Sometimes we get donated in cases and then the CD actually isn't in it, or so just simple things like that. It only takes a minute, doesn't it, rather than just throwing it in a bag and dropping it on our doorstep.
Yeah, so you as an individual, it takes an extra 5 minutes or something, but the person at the other end has got to do that tenfold if they've had 10 jigsaws in that day that they've got to count or whatever. So I wanted to talk to you about things like electricals as well. So there's always a little bit of confusion about electrical items and whether or not they can be donated to a charity shop. So what happens in your charity shop about electrical items?
So no, we can't accept electrical goods because they need to be pat tested.
Yeah, so if anybody doesn't know what pat testing is, because obviously it's probably, I would imagine, called something different around the world. So pat testing is just doing the electrical safety checks. And what a lot of our charities here have is they do have a pat tester on the premises that will do that. So some charity shops will take electrical items and some won't. And it's not always clear. So furniture, it's clear because you can kind of see that they sell furniture when you walk past it. Electricals is a little bit more tricky to work with. So again, just ask the question, give them a phone call, check the website, and it will become very clear whether they will or won't, or whether they do or don't have a pat tester on the premises and can take your old electricals. Because old electricals quite often, well, depending on how old they are, will sell well, TVs and all that kind of thing. They've definitely got a secondhand market. So it's useful to find out which charity shops in your area do have those pat testers. So one other thing that I wanted to talk about is that more recently, charity shops have stopped, or some charity shops have stopped even taking DVDs. So videos are kind of long gone for most charity shops, I would say. So most charity shops won't go down the video because it's 3 or 4 generations past, isn't it, now that we're all streaming things and downloading things. So, but even DVDs are becoming a little bit out of vogue in a lot of charity shops. So what does your charity shop, do they take DVDs or do they not?
We do, and like I said, we really will take everything, because it's somebody somewhere will want something. But in our shop, we do have DVDs and CDs, and along with all the books. So it's a little area in our shop that is shelves for those sort of things. And we have our regulars that come in all the time, because obviously every day we have donations. So you just don't know what's going to be there. And so we have people who come in and they know the shelf and they know what's on there, and they can tell when there's something new.
So what do you think is your biggest seller? Is this a tough question, Sandra? I'm going to put you on the spot and say, what's the thing that sells most well in your charity shop as a category?
Well, ladies' clothes, I know that's a broad category, but it's definitely ladies. So obviously we're a holiday destination, aren't we? So we have lots of people, and I don't know if it's fair to say that the age population of the visitors is a bit older in Llandudno. And so we have a lot of ladies come in and buying tops, and even, they're staying in the hotels and they have nights in the hotels, and they come in for a sparkly top or something to wear that night, or they've come away on holiday and they've forgotten something. Or whether it be a handbag or a top or a pair of trousers. So it's handy from that point of view that, they'll just pop in and get something because they've forgotten to pack it.
Well, there you go. Charity shops in Llandudno. And that's the scoop on the charity shop in Llandudno. It sounds amazing. I think it's such a worthwhile cause. I think it's fantastic for you to be doing something that you feel passionate about in terms of feline welfare. I think it's amazing because it's all about sustainability, which has formed a big part of your life as well, Sandra. And so really interesting that you're doing that now. So do you feel like you're going to continue that for a while?
Oh, definitely. In fact, I can't rate highly enough being a volunteer. I mean, I love it, and I've made great friends. You know, it gets me out of the house. It's lovely. Yeah, I would definitely think about volunteering if you have the time, because it's such a two-way thing, because you're getting so much from it, but you're also helping out the charity shops.
Fantastic. So Sandra, I mean, I feel like we could have more podcasts. We did episode 131. We've done episode 138 now. And I feel like we've got more that we could chat about, but we need to give somebody else a chance, don't we, to talk on the podcast. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you from me. It's been so lovely to be able to interview one of my best friends and most long-standing friends. So thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with me today. I'm sure it's been super useful for a lot of people because charity shops is something that we declutterers absolutely love to know what's going on, because at the end of the day, it's such an integral part of the process of decluttering to be able to donate your items to things that you feel are going to give them a second life and repurpose them. So that's really, really important. So to understand what you can and can't take, what's useful, what's not, is a really important part of the process. So thanks so much for sharing that. So thank you for being here, Sandra.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it.
So that's it for this episode. We hope you've all enjoyed listening and are inspired to take action. And we appreciate you so much for taking the time to listen. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with other people. Maybe your friends and family would love our show too. Who would not love talking about charity shops? On our show notes page on our website, you can find all the sharing buttons. And we are going to drop links to Sandra's Instagram page and information about the Cats Protection Charity as well. If you want more handy tips and advice from Ingrid and I, you can find us in lots of places. We've got our lovely Facebook group called the Declutter Hub Community, where you'll find loads of inspiration and support. We've got Instagram and we've got a Facebook page too, and you can find us at Declutter Hub. We would love to see you there. Don't forget to take a look at our membership as well. If you are really struggling and feel overwhelmed on your decluttering journey, we can absolutely help. And if you're not sure whether a membership is the right thing for you, we offer a free 15-minute discovery call. So you can ask us anything about the membership to see whether it's the right place for you to be. If you don't want to miss our next podcast, please do subscribe to the Declutter Hub podcast and it will pop into your notifications each Friday. We've been asking for reviews, which make a huge difference to us. So if you've enjoyed today or any other of our podcasts, we would love you to take a couple of minutes out of your day to leave us a review. Ingrid and I absolutely love reading them. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Declutter Hub podcast. Check out declutterhub.com for more inspiration, and don't forget to tune in next week.